Hello everyone, and welcome to our first video tutorial on avoiding plagiarism, brought to you by the Avila University Writing Center. I am Ashley Squires, the director, and I'll be guiding you through this topic over a few different installments. So the Avila University Honor Code defines plagiarism as the act of taking ideas from somebody else and representing them as one's own work without acknowledging the source. So this could include something like stealing part of an essay that's written by another student and turning it in as if you wrote it, or copying sources you found on the internet or really anywhere else without properly citing them. It could also mean simply presenting somebody else's ideas in a paper without telling without telling your reader where they came from. So at Avila, as at most universities around the world, plagiarism is considered to be a serious violation of academic ethics. And if caught, a student can receive penalties that range from failing the assignment to actually being expelled from the university in the case of multiple egregious offenses. Such consequences can even occur if the student didn't originally intend to plagiarize. So for that reason, it's important to understand what plagiarism looks like and why it happens. So in this video, we're going to cover two different forms of plagiarism, why they are wrong, and how to avoid them in your writing. In a future video, we're going to cover the reasons why many students plagiarize and how those reasons can be addressed. Western writing culture has really strong rules and norms around intellectual property that are designed to ensure that an individual's work is recognized and that that individual can continue to benefit from the value of their ideas and words as they move through the world. And the benefit doesn't necessarily have to be monetary. It can be simply through the development of reputation. This means that each time we want to refer to somebody else's work in our own writing, we need to give them credit. And in the academic world, this practice of citation has three main effects. First, it gives the original author credit for their work. It helps that author build a reputation by showing them to be the originator of an idea. It also helps your readers by showing them where an idea originated and how it is being built upon. So in other words, it assists future researchers with their own work by helping them understand where your ideas came from. But it also makes you, the citing author, look more credible because your readers are going to see that you are aware of the work that has already been done in your field, that you're building on existing ideas, and that you're addressing major problems and questions that are of interest to people in your field. What this means is that anytime you quote somebody else's exact words in your own text, you need to do three things. First of all, you need to set it off with quotation marks that clearly distinguish your words from somebody else's. You need to include a short in-text citation that shows the source the quote comes from, looks a little bit like this. And third, you need to provide a full list of references at the end of the paper. We're going to cover the mechanics of how to do in-text citations and reference pages in a future video. So for now, simply know that you will need to know how to do it in the future, and that pretty much all papers that require you to cite outside research or outside sources will require both in-text citation and references pages. Anytime you use somebody else's exact words in your writing without distinguishing them from your own, it is considered an egregious form of plagiarism, and this is the form that is most often caught and punished. However, most people know that they shouldn't copy somebody else's exact words without credit, but some students don't always know that it is also wrong to copy somebody else's idea without credit, even if you put those ideas in your own words. It's really easy for students to get confused about this because we're often taught in school how to paraphrase or summarize a text in our writing classes. But sometimes we just forget that you're supposed to indicate the source of the idea, even if there's no need to actually use quotation marks. The reason why we need to do this is because most pieces of writing are at least supposed to contain original ideas and not just original words. So an author should get credit for their original arguments and concepts, even if the person citing them does not use their exact words. So this is best demonstrated through an example. Let's say, for example, that I'm writing an essay for a sociology class on working conditions in service industries. While I'm doing some initial research, I read Arlie Hochschild's The Managed Heart, which is the book that introduced the term emotional labor, which you might have heard before, into popular discourse. While reading this book, I find this concept really compelling, and I want to incorporate it in some way into my paper. So one way that I could do this, of course, would be to simply quote Hochschild's exact definition, embed it in quotation marks, as I've done here, and I complete my task with an in-text citation and then with a references entry at the very end of the paper. But let's say I am interested in this whole passage, including the flight attendant example that she uses, but it's really too long to quote in full. I'm supposed to write like a 1,000-word or 1,500-word essay, and I can't fit this all in. So in that case, a better strategy would be to try to paraphrase what the author says, using my own words to define emotional labor. So something like this. In the modern service economy, workers are called not only to labor physically on behalf of their employer, but to manifest certain outward emotions that serve the image her employer is trying to project to the customer, like flight attendants who must remain cheerful and smiling despite the grueling, sometimes even dangerous conditions of their work. Okay, so you'll notice if you go back and compare this paraphrase to the original text, that no phrases in the sentence match Hochschild's text exactly. So what am I doing wrong if I don't cite it? Well, as the originator of the concept, Hochschild is supposed to be credited for her idea, and I am supposed to signal that I, the author of my class paper, have been informed by her work. What's more, the flight attendant is one of Hochschild's key examples of the concept, a pretty famous one, in fact, and it would be really dishonest to pretend like I came up with that example all by myself. So the more correct way, of course, would be to do it like this, with the proper in-text citation, which again, we'll show you how to do in a later video, even though the statement doesn't require any quotation marks anywhere. However, some of you might be saying, I have definitely seen the term emotional labor before, and I have never heard of this book. And that's likely true. In the decades since The Managed Heart was written, the term emotional labor has been popularized. And so you will see it used by journalists, television hosts, bloggers, comedians, etc., to describe everything from the requirement that you maintain a cheerful attitude in your fast food job to the extra work that is expected of many women in the home, such as tending to the emotions of her family members. Most people who use this term never credit Hochschild, and Hochschild herself has pointed out that the term has been subject to concept creep, meaning that people now regularly use it in a way that is pretty far from her original intent. So if you're going to stick to Hochschild's original definition and refer to her original examples, such as the flight attendant, then you need to show where it comes from. Furthermore, when you are writing in an academic context, we really expect you to write with an awareness of where your ideas and concepts come from. So even if you want to use a more popular or recent definition of the term, or even if you originally heard about it from somewhere else, you will be a more credible writer if you show that you know where it originally came from. After all, it's in the Wikipedia entry. And you definitely shouldn't try to pass off the concept of emotional labor as if you are the one who came up with it, because there is an excellent chance that your reader will know. So you might then say, but wait, does this mean that I have to cite a source every time I mention something that I learned from somewhere else, like, for example, my textbook? And the answer is not really. You never need to cite a source when you are talking about something that you have discovered through your own personal experience, observation of the world, or original research. You also do not need to cite a source when referring to common public facts. So, for example, while a particular argument about the root causes of the First World War, such as the one famously made by Barbara Tuchman in The Guns of August, definitely needs to be cited, the fact that it occurred between 1914 and 1918 is not something you need to cite, even if you originally found out about it from a source like Wikipedia. The reason is that the dates for the First World War are agreed upon, settled fact that you can find in literally thousands, if not millions, of sources. It's not the property of the first person to ever put that span of years in print. Meanwhile, there are many theories, arguments, and interpretations regarding the root causes of the war, and to discuss them, you generally should refer to their authors. That said, it is sometimes the case that an idea that once needed to be argued for becomes an established fact. For example, the double helical structure of the molecule deoxyribonucleic acid, or DNA, was first described in a 1953 article by Watson and Crick. However, in the intervening years, the structure of DNA has been confirmed and redescribed many times over. It is in school textbooks taught to small children. At this point, the structure of DNA is a well-established fact, and you don't really need to cite the 1953 article or your grade school textbook if you're simply going to say that DNA has a double helical structure. So if any of this makes you nervous, you're in good company. Once students find out that it is possible to plagiarize without even knowing it, it's easy to get a little bit paranoid about it. However, if you ever have any questions about what you're doing, please feel free to come to the Writing Center to talk with one of our consultants about it. Be sure to bring along a copy of your assignment and the sources you are concerned about, and we'll be happy to discuss strategies for using them while maintaining your academic ethics. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope we will see you in the Writing Center.